Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We got a few things to talk about. We're going to get in and talk about the Lakers head coach and hire and whether or not that is a good idea. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how my weekend was going this weekend. On Saturday, I watched the greatest concert movie ever made, Stop Making Sense. I am upset with myself that I did not see it when the IMAX was running, and I didn't see it when the IMAX was running because I kept telling people I wanted to go see it with them, and then we couldn't work it out, and then I forgot, and anything else. But it's streaming on Max. I checked it out. It's incredible. Get out of my face with this last waltz nonsense. Go check this out if you have not done it before. But anyway, a big part of why I watched that, well, actually, a big part of why I watched it is, Sean, the weather, the thermostat is set on testicles up here in New York City. I don't know how hot it is in Los Angeles, but it was a ballsy 95 on Saturday.
So it was still like it was kind of a heat wave in LA, but when I called my mom who's in Jersey, she was like, "I haven't been outside in 2 days." She's like, "It's too gross. It's thick out there. It's like it's difficult to walk."
I could live with the thick part because I'm from Houston. You know what I'm saying? I know humidity. This doesn't really pass for humidity. Houston, New Orleans, like South Florida, that's talking about some humidity, right? Like the issue with me here is not the humidity, it's all this concrete. But you can't, you need to get outside when you live here.
Right.
You know, I'm on my thing. I try to go to the park any day that is nice, but it was just too hot. But on Saturday, I was like, I'm going to get out here as early as I can to just say I did. So I took my chair. I went to Morningside Park. I posted up in the shade. I was minding my own business. And it was wild because to the right of me, it was some grown-ups doing yoga. And to the left of me, it was a kid's birthday party. And in my hand, it was weed. And those kids, I got bad news for you, little homies. This was not gonna, no. Anyway, so I'm out there chilling, minding my own business. But before I got to my chair, I don't think I told you about this. So I'm walking, I look up. I'm in Morningside Park, okay? So I'm not in anything I would call touristy. Why did I see Jameis Winston, his wife and kids in Morningside Park just walking around? Yeah, I walked up to him and was like, yo, what's going on? And I don't think either of us could believe that they were talking to the other in the place that they were in. I have no idea why Jameis country ass was up on 116th Street in Morningside. I have no clue, but he was there. And so I went, sat down, but it was so hot. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, I randomly stumbled upon Jameis Winston at, of all places, Morningside Park. Not the Empire State Building, not just walking around Midtown, not Times Square, right? Nope. Up there.
Jameis Winston, Morningside Park. What are the chances?
That's what I'm saying. The odds, very low. So anyway, the next day, it's crazy hot again. And I want to be outside because Sean has been to my house and I got floor to ceiling windows. They seem really player, except they kind of turned my living room into a greenhouse. And so my damn thermostat is not capable always of getting to the numbers that I say. I got the damn thing set to 74, but it's 80.
It's a greenhouse in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's blazing hot, man, but it's better than it is outside. And it was a Sunday, and I'm gonna be honest with you, at this time of year, I ain't really trying to watch no more sports than absolutely necessary. I'm still kind of recovering from the NBA Finals, but I looked at the timing, and I'm like, yo, we got the Fever and the Sky. Huh. I think I'll check that out. My brother had just come over because it was my mama's birthday. So we did a FaceTime with her together. You know what I'm saying? She still thinks it's kind of like magic. So we did the FaceTime with her, and then we stuck around and we watched Fever Sky. And Sean, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a run. I'm going to give it a run right now. And you know what I'm going to give it a run at? We're going to talk about some actual WNBA basketball. That is what we're going to do today.
That was, from a basketball standpoint, an objectively good, fun game to watch.
It was a good game to watch. it had high shooting percentage, which I think is a big deal when you were making the transition into watching women's basketball. Because let's be honest about something here. This is not the same game. Okay. If women's basketball is not going to do it for you, I don't really think you need to apologize for it. Like the things that probably got you into men's basketball are not going to keep you in women's basketball. Like what was wild for me to watch is how little jumping there is. I'm not saying this is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but how little jumping there is. Like the difference between watching men's tennis and watching women's tennis really is that men's tennis is played by men and women's tennis is played by women. Like the men are stronger. You could say all these things that the men do that are, for lack of a better term, we'll call it physically superior. But it doesn't matter when you watch two people of the same gender play. Like, I don't think that watching men's tennis is any more enjoyable or I don't find it to be substantively different. These are two different games. They are two very different games. But I was watching, and my brother and I had been talking about this, and I brought this up with a few other people when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And I really don't want to wade into the culture war of Caitlin Clark because just a lot of people aren't willing to be honest about where they're coming from about this one. And that is on all sides, right? As long as y'all gonna keep on lying, it don't really serve me too much to get out here and tell the full-on truth. But I would like to make this note that a lot of us who are here that are new to watching the WNBA, like, we're new, okay? But we also need to understand that a lot of the people that are acting like they not new to the WNBA, they new to the WNBA too, right? They may not be as new as we are, but there's got to be some people who's watching the people that act like WNBA experts, and it's got to feel very similar to like, so when you first get to college, like I did a summer program before my freshman year, and you get there and you see the dudes that got on the fraternity stuff, and you figure they got to be somebody's on campus, right? Because clearly they got the fraternity stuff, right? But then you get into college, and then it turns into your sophomore, junior year, and you see who the new dudes are that get themselves fraternity letters, and then you realize, oh, wait, this dork is in a fraternity now? But the person that just showed up to campus and ain't been here don't know that's a dork. All they see is a dude in a fraternity shirt and they thinking, oh, he must be somebody. But you yourself are like, wait a minute, that's a dork, right? I'm just saying that because it's some dorks purporting themselves to be experts with the WNBA stuff. And what I am feeling like with some of these dorks, not all of you are dorks. Some of you are dorks and it's coincidental, but not everybody. But a question that I do have is, how many people are really in this for the basketball itself? And the reason why I say that is you can get into anything and not for like the technical reasons of it, right? Like, I enjoy watching football. I enjoy the sport of football, but I don't think about football on like the molecular level that say Mina Kimes thinks about football, for example, right? Like she's into it for the sport in a way where I think I am probably into it a little bit more for the theater. I enjoy the sport and the athleticism too, but if you had it on a scale, right? She's probably more into it for the football. I'm probably more into it for a lot of the surrounding things. The reason I asked that about a lot of the people with the WNBA, and even those who get into like analyzing the basketball and do know about the basketball, the reason I ask how many of them actually love the basketball is because as much discussion as I've seen about Caitlin Clark as a cultural figure, and as much as I have seen people who watch more WNBA basketball than I do use her as a way to talk about how good a lot of the other players are, I'm watching that game on Sunday. My brother and I are both watching this, and we are looking at this like, yo, she is cold. Like, it's one thing to be cold and you doing this in college, right? The adjustment to the WNBA that we've talked about because it's so hard to get into the league. We've already talked about that as being a fairly steep uphill climb, right? I'm not making the argument that Caitlin Clark is one of the 10 best players in the NBA. I don't know if she's one of the 20 best players in the NBA. I'm not saying all of that. But I know what it looks like when you see somebody and you're like, oh, they are cold, right? She is cold. And I feel like when you really into basketball for the basketball, you see somebody that's cold and you're like, damn, she cold. Like Kennedy Carter for Chicago is an example of that one for me. Like the first time I actually watched the game and saw her play, I was like, oh, wait, she's cold. Right? I don't know if it's just an aesthetic thing that comes up with it or whatever, but like watching Clark hit them parking lot shots, them outlet passes, and I'm kind of feeling bad for her. My buddy and me and Al Hassan talked about when they would watch Steph Curry's film when he worked for the Suns. They had a stat they kept up with. I don't even want to say it because, all right, they called it the Lovedales because Davidson had a dude named Lovedale who played on the team. And what a Lovedale was a great pass that Steph threw that these jokers couldn't catch because they just wasn't as good, right? Like Caitlin Clark out here throwing some passes to her teammates in that game where she need to get out here and start sounding like an old person. Like, look alive, keep your eye on the ball, right? Like stuff you tell people in Little League because she's getting that thing and whipping it up. Like, that is a cold basketball player, separate anything else. That's part of why it's a little bit surprising to me that even with all the culture war stuff, that there aren't more people that are like, but hold on. Do y'all see what's going on here? Like, this joker can hoop. That was thought number one that I had in watching that game. And I watched them put together that 14-point lead. And I looked at my brother, neither of us being guys that know very much about women's basketball. And I said to him, I feel like a 14-point lead at however much time it was left, that feels kind of like an insurmountable margin, right? Just only because I'm assuming the shooting is not going to be as good. So like to come back from that sort of margin, it's going to be a little bit tough. Obviously, I was incorrect about this because from that point on, the sky was just like, all right, let's kick it. And then they just walked them all the way down and won the game. Now, in the process of walking them down, Angel Reese showed up. Now, I don't want to get involved in y'all's discussions about Rookie of the Year because I just don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention. They could be a rookie number 3 that I don't know nothing about, right? I don't know who's having a better season. I don't even want to get into who was having a better game in that one. Angel Reese had like 26 and 18. Caitlin Clark had 17 and 13. And Sean, I believe that was the franchise record for the Fever, the 13 assists.
Yeah,
that's what they said. Like they were.
And like you said, there's probably 3 or 4 assists that were missed because their teammates couldn't catch the ball.
Yeah. It was hitting them in the face type stuff, right? I don't like. This is what I know about Angel Reese. Like I'm trying to talk about these two independently and not get into that sort of comparison. This is what I know about Angel Reese. I saw this when I watched the game that LSU played against Iowa in the Final Four. You know, another one of these Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark games, or that's how you put it. Put a pin in that topic. I'll talk about more of it in just a second. But I don't know if Angel Reese can make this decision to do this for an entire game. But she can apparently make the decision for at least a half. She has a switch, right? Like she is one of these players who can lock in if for whatever reason, maybe because you just made her mad, she can lock in like the woman Smith that she was guarding. I can't remember how to say her first name, so please forgive me. I'm going to just stick with Smith. I know how to say that. She locked in on her in that fourth quarter, Sean, and it was just like, okay, it's time to go get buckets. And this is from somebody who, from what I can tell, her game is not a I'm going to go get buckets game. Can't hear you.
She's always been a good interior post defender and a rebounder, but like you said, she can flip a switch, and there's a stat right here. She's the first rookie with 25 and 15 since Asia Wilson, which is great company to be in.
But there is something special about any athlete or any player. Like the idea that you can just turn it on. I don't think that people can do that just at will, right? Like if you could just turn it on at will like that, you'd keep it on all the time. That was the Roy Williams line from The Last Dance. He's like, Michael Jordan is the only player he'd ever seen who could always turn it on. And he could turn it on and off, but he never turned it off, right? Like if you could turn it on and off, you would leave it on all the time, right? So I struggle with the idea there's some people that can just turn it on. I don't know, but there are some people that whatever happens and the stars align and they can lock in and be like, okay, we here to do this. And Angel Reese was on the we here to do this. She be talking cash shit too. And like not any sort of joyful sort of cash shit. Like she had the back and forth with Smith and the ref got involved. They told the ref, yeah, they handled it. But Sean, she looked like she talked Smith out of her game at the end, which has got to be really embarrassing for you if you'd have grown up.
Yeah, like I know that clip went viral of her waving off the ref, but I can tell they were still kind of heated. And like Angel Reese was like really getting in her head.
Yeah, like I did not get the feeling that they were like, yo, this is just friendly banter amongst competitors. That was not the feeling that I was getting. Angel Reese don't seem like Angel Reese don't look like she got a lot of jokes. Like she don't really seem like she in this for the play. Like that doesn't seem the way that she's going about it. But I love, look at this. There we go. They got to going back and forth. The ref came in and, shut it down or whatever. Like, no. We got this under control. But I tell you this, Angel Reese might have had that under control. I don't feel like Smith had nearly as much control over the situation as she would like to imply. She just didn't want to look like she was calling for the teacher. But I love an athlete that can lock in. Like there are just, and there are some people who can just do this. Some people just don't really have it in them, right? Where it feels like Jason Tatum is an example of this. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I feel like even like that game 7 where Jason Tatum had something like 84 points. You remember that one against the Sixers? I think it was 50 or something like that. It doesn't feel like Jason Tatum is just locked in. It feels like Jason Tatum's having a good night. There's just something different that you can tell where it feels like somebody is locked in. LeBron James, Game 6, 2012 against the Celtics. That man locked in, right? Hey, my whole career and reputation is on the line right now. The man locked in. It was cool to watch Angel Reese lock in that game. Now that I've talked about the basketball of it, I want to use the basketball to help us kind of sort of evaluate the way that we look at some of the not quite basketball that we refer to when it's time to talk about the basketball. Okay. We have done so much to try to make this a rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And the only reason that this is a rivalry between the two of them is Angel Reese decided to be a jerk once the title game was in hand in the year 2023. Otherwise, there's really nothing between these two players individually that says rivalry, right? They don't really have a back and forth that's there. Now, Caitlin Clark, look, she ain't no quiet, don't say nothing, Sean. You saw her out there making them faces when she was hitting them shots. I guess she must have been watching Bang Chella. She was trying to do stuff with her fingers and make Kobe faces. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, she has not stopped talking trash from college to the league. Like she's she's almost talked more trash as a rookie. And to your point, I think the narrative of Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark is all just the media. Like they don't even consider it.
Oh, I would not say they don't. Okay. I would not say they. I do think one of them gives it a great deal of thought.
Yes.
I think the one that chased the other around that one time certainly thinks that this dog. I don't know why we got to lie out here. They're like the other women in the WNBA. They all love Caitlin Clark. Shut up.
No, they don't.
Some of them do. I don't know who they are. A couple of them might, right? But we ain't got to lie about this one. Like, Angel Reese ain't feeling that girl, right? Like she might not hate her, but she don't love her. She's not like, wow, Caitlin Clark's so great for the game. No, that's not what it is. But anyway, in this game that is positioned as a rivalry between the two of them, they have no on-court interaction whatsoever. I did not see a single moment in that game where either of them had anything to do with the other. I didn't see nothing this time where Angel Reese got into a position to try to block her shot, although the last time that happened, she almost decapitated her. But I didn't see them get caught on those switches. I didn't see them anywhere doing anything. I didn't see a 3-on-2 break where one of them had to guard the other. They had nothing to do with each other the entire game. You know why? Because they don't play the same position. They don't have, they got nothing to do with each other on the actual basketball court. It's just not there. They have been on teams that have had like a back and forth with each other. They played against each other or whatever it is, right? But like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, it was the clear leader of one team and the clear leader of another team. That's what it was in 1979. That's what it was in 1984, 85, 87, right? Like that was clear there. That was never really the case with LSU and Iowa. Like what Caitlin Clark was to Iowa, Angel Reese was not that at all, no matter if somebody put a crown on her head in warm-ups or not. It was not the same thing. Like, I don't think that they exist in the, like, they're neither parallel nor perpendicular, whichever one you want to use to explain how it is that they themselves would be rivals. They not. It's not there. But what we wound up with in that game, Sean, which I think is very fascinating, they both played very well, right? In such a way where if you rock with either of them, you can say, oh man, my person did a great job. Wow. See, that's why I rock with that person. Everybody got what they needed out of it. Somehow it wasn't zero sum.
Totally. And I've seen a lot of tweets from fans of the WNBA being like, is it wrong for me to root for both of them and want both of them to be good and succeed? You know, it's that weird underlying where like they have fans that kind of overlap.
Yeah, I would make this point though, man. Ain't everybody required to want everybody to do well? Like, I just want to let everybody, and look, I need to be careful on this because I'm bringing the toxic energy of male sports over into women's sports where it's a little different. But I'm perfectly content to not like people, right? Like, there's a lot of people that's out here all day. They don't like Caitlin Clark. Knock yourself out with that. Go ahead. Just don't deny that she cold, right? There's a lot of people out there that's all I don't like Angel Reese. Just don't go too far. That's all we asking, right? Like you wind up in your little struggle place where next thing you know, you saying something that you couldn't even believe came out of your own mouth. Like we don't need it to go all the way. But the thing that I came away with from watching that rivalry game was, wow, it was a really good game. There just wasn't a rivalry. It doesn't really work that way. Hey, Sean, how people going to find a way to get mad at that one on either side? Because I feel like it's a guarantee.
Like you said, I think either side will have a something to point out at. Maybe the Caitlin Clark turnovers, calling out her teammates for not being able to catch the ball. Maybe, you know, there's always going to be a way. There's always going to be a way.
I just feel like somebody going to have something on it no matter what. But hey, man, I gave it a try. I'm going to try to talk about this basketball. And we going to see how much more that happens. But I gave it a run. Aaliyah Boston was balling. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, I saw her. She pulled that one shot out her keister at the end. That was amazing.
You gave credit to everyone who played well. I thought it was a good segment from a producer brain standpoint.
And I think I named everybody whose name I know other than Cardoso. I know her name. Otherwise, it was a lot of Isabel Harrison.
Yes, yeah.
I know about her. Okay, but let me tell you something about the Fever. The Fever is Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and WNBA basketball players. Hard-working ladies.
And if someone wants to fight that point, I would urge them to watch a half of Fever basketball.
I'll tell you this. People have been telling me that the Fever's coach is not good, and I just didn't know enough to speak on that. I came away from that game, perhaps it was confirmation bias, but I came away from that game feeling like, oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, because they couldn't get a look for Caitlin Clark at the end. And she was cooking. They could not get a look for her in the fourth quarter to save everything. So apparently what they're telling me is if Caitlin Clark's going to score, she doesn't go into the left. And so the move is to get her to go right, and that the sky was getting her to go right, and she couldn't do nothing with it. The coach is supposed to figure something out about this one.
She kind of just stood there and watched like the rest of us.
Yes. You know what I keep calling the coach? The coach. I think I was on the phone. I don't want to put nobody else's opinion out there, but I was on the phone with somebody about this, and she told me that woman's name, and something told me, Bomani, you should write that down. It'll probably come up one day at work. And it did not. Because the thing is, I'm trying to get my WNBA learn on, but often without hearing. Like I'm doing a lot of reading, and I admit I've watched like more clips than I have watched games. So there's the one woman who plays for Chicago. Actually, I don't think she was in the game. I don't know how to say her name. I bet you know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, Seb know who I'm talking about.
Kalia Copper?
How you say it? No. If I don't know how to say her name, you know who I'm talking about. Somebody in the chat room go write it down. She was up there in Boston the other day. Her name started with a K.
Not Kennedy Carter?
KY. No, KY.
I don't see it. Maybe she
play
didn't
for
play
Chicago?
at all. Let me see.
I don't think she played. I'm surprised nobody in the chat room has jumped in knowing exactly who I'm talking about. I thought it would be fairly obvious.
I know who you're talking about. I think
it's
Kearsey.
But I have no idea. I have no idea. Don't ask me.
Seb's saying Kaiser.
We got Kaiser.
That's what it is? What's the last name?
Seb hit us with the Lord knows.
Bruh, Kaiser, thank you for helping. Oh, wow, I just dropped my phone. Thank you for helping me out. I had no idea. I've been trying to find a solution to this. I've been asking my friends, and they don't know. They knew exactly who I was talking about, but they had no idea.
Yep. A lot of the chats. So, I know who that is.
Yeah, let me tell you this. Could not one of them give us one of them no help and no pronunciation with the slashes and the apostrophes and the dashes? You know what I'm saying? Nobody had no help for her. Nobody had no help for us. But yeah, I brought her up to mention the fact that, yeah, there's some things I'm trying to learn by reading that you just need to be having more conversations with people about. Because I didn't know where to begin. I had no idea. Wow. That was Kaiser. Okay. Anyway, the Lakers hired JJ Redick to be their head coach. So one thing that I like to point out when it comes time to talk about hiring NBA coaches, and I think that this is very, very important. Oh, and by the way, right fast, people say we're not reading the chat. No, the issue is the chat runs on a delay from what we're saying. So y'all can put the stuff in, but we don't get it necessarily at the same time. Because trust me, I was looking for help. But anyway, Lakers hired JJ Redick. I have no idea who will or will not be a good coach. They be pulling coaches out of the middle of who the hell knows and make stuff work. They get guys from broadcasting booths all the time and make that work. Doc Rivers is a broadcaster turned coach. Steve Kerr, kind of, sort of, but not really, but a little bit broadcaster turned coach. And I had seen nothing to lead me to believe that Steve Kerr was going to be a good coach. He going to walk into a Hall of Fame. We can go up and down. I got no idea. There's no real template exactly how it is that you're going to make a coach work. Larry Bird, who never believed that coaches were valuable at all, did 3 years as a coach. That's maybe the best 3-year stint any coach, like outside of like Phil Jackson doing three-peats or Red Auerbach, just walked into the door, killing it, and then left, right? And again, this man don't think coaches actually matter. Anybody could be a good head coach, but not everybody could be a good head coach. And I don't know the difference between anybody and everybody when it comes to somebody like JJ. I have no clue. I do know this. If your thought is, well, him and LeBron do a podcast together, that means that this coaching thing will work out. At least he'll have LeBron's respect. Hey, Sean, when's the last time you had a roommate?
Been a while. But
was it your homie or somebody?
Yeah, it was
before y'all were roommates.
We were good friends heading into it. We became good friends, and towards the end, it was like we need to live it our own. You know, it just happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's one thing if you become good friends with the roommate. It's another thing if you're already good friends with the roommate. Because if you start off as good friends with the roommate, your relationship will not improve. Perhaps it stays the same. Quite possibly you'll never speak again. Right? And so these cats are becoming roommates, except the issue is they're becoming roommates, except it's like I don't even know the analogy to try to use. I normally come up with these analogies off the rip.
One of them owns the building.
Yes,
One of them owns the whole building you're living in. It's like, hey, come on in.
That's exactly it. Somehow LeBron is at once a tenant and the landlord. And JJ is the super. Like, imagine being the super and coming in and telling the owner what to, boom, boom, boom. Sean, that's what it is. How the owner of the building can have a unit in the building, right? And now the super is telling the owner to move your stuff out of this egress because it's a fire hazard.
And it's like, I hired you.
But right, exactly. I hired you. And I don't think that LeBron actually hired JJ because JJ is not exactly what LeBron's into when it comes to coaches. He tends to like coaches that have some experience or he often does. And, well, the other thing. But anyway, JJ has at once got to win LeBron's respect and win the respect of everybody else, but he's not Ty Lue, and Ty Lue can come in there and tell LeBron to shut up and make it work, and LeBron may not like it, but LeBron kind of sort of got to take it, and you can win over everybody, and Ty Lue got a basketball brain that LeBron 100% respects. The idea that JJ got enough of a basketball brain to do a podcast with LeBron does not necessarily mean he got the basketball brain that LeBron thinks is necessary to coach him. Okay? That, like, we don't know if that respect level is there. And I'm curious to see how it is that JJ is going to get along with that roster. So I don't know JJ well. I know JJ a little bit. Done a little TV with him, hung out with him at a dinner or something, a couple things, but I don't know him, to be clear. I know him more from the content that he makes than anything else. And like JJ doing television did not seem like a dude who I would think would be able to relate to players or a guy that I would want coaching my team in that way. JJ doing podcasts and stuff with other players, he gets along swimmingly, right? If he can exist in the space that's kind of between those two places, then I think that ultimately he's going to be all right. How you manage the relationship with Anthony Davis, of course, is tricky, but how you manage the relationship with LeBron on the day-to-day is real interesting, and how your ego deals with being with LeBron. And if I was a head coach and LeBron does that thing where he's like, look, give me the board, I'll draw up a play. Sean, I don't really know how I would actually feel about that. On one level, you just got to be like, yo, go ahead. But not everybody's built to handle that. And I couldn't promise you that I'd be built to handle that.
Like when Brown was doing it to Darvin Ham, I think everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's why you hire
David
someone.
Blatt.
Yeah, and David Blatt. That's why you hire someone like that. But I just know that JJ is very confident in his basketball IQ and knowledge, which is the main reason why they made that podcast together.
Yes, but how to stand as that guy in the face of LeBron James. I'm just very curious how that goes. And look, that's the only thing I got over here to analyze about it. Because, again, none of us know. We don't have any background of what JJ's been like as a head coach to tell us what it's going to be. Like, if they had hired Mike D'Antoni, I could tell you the pluses and minuses of having Mike D'Antoni. If they hired Budenholzer, I could tell you the pluses and minuses of that. We're dealing with a blank slate here, right? We're not even talking about a dude that's worked as an assistant. We don't really know. We know he wears really nice suits, and the Lakers seem to see him as a potential, like, Pat Riley type. But that doesn't sound like a basketball observation. That sounds like vibes.
100%. And I was curious if you have any thoughts on this aspect that, like, JJ clearly an admirer of LeBron, but while doing the pod, seemingly they've become friends and at times peers with their knowledge. Like, yes, does that seems like to me it hurts the whole dynamic heading into this season of like, I'm not your peer, I'm your coach kind of vibe.
Yeah, but I think maybe this is where being a former player will really help. JJ know who in charge is LeBron. Right? Now, can he be cool with the fact that LeBron's in charge? That becomes its own thing. But LeBron James is the one who's in charge. Now, what is JJ's move on getting through to Anthony Davis. Because one thing to remember is JJ played with New Orleans. I don't think he played for New Orleans with Anthony Davis, but it was clear when he was on television, he heard things about Anthony Davis. And one thing I remember JJ talking about on television was the idea that Anthony Davis only plays basically if he's 100%. That if he's dinged up, that he doesn't play. And he has said this on television. How exactly does that work in application, right? Like, these are the things that come up when you do TV. Everybody's heard everything that you don't have to say about all of them. And what they've heard you had to say about them is actually worse than what you actually said, because they homeboys always be sicing it up. Always be sicing ass homeboys. Stay sicing. Stay sicing. Watch out, JJ. They be sicing. Hey, the NBA might be over, but with Prize Picks, you can still turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and you're locked in. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hear from me, let's talk to somebody who actually uses Prize Picks. Sean, how's the picking been going?
You know, Bo, even with the NBA over, I'm still out here making picks with the WNBA, MLB, and even sports like golf or cricket. And, Prize Picks has me covered throughout the summer. So, to all the listeners, make sure you tune in to the end of the show to hear my picks for the day.
All right, there we go. So you make sure to go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bo, here's our first clip of the day.
Hello, my name is Josh Keating. I'm a foreign policy and national security reporter for Vox, and I recently wrote an article titled "The World is Running Out of Soldiers." A war between the United States and China would involve the kind of military manpower the world hasn't seen in decades. As a point of contrast, around 156,000 troops landed on the beaches of France during the Normandy invasion in 1944, recently commemorated by world leaders. But some experts estimate that if China were to try to invade Taiwan, the most likely flashpoint for a superpower war, it might need as many as 1 million troops. If the U.S. were to defend the island, according to some estimates, it might suffer as many as half the number of casualties in just the first 3 weeks of fighting that it did in 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. The war in Ukraine, a grueling war of attrition that's involved the kind of battlefield casualties that the world had hoped had been consigned to the dustbin of history, has sparked new interest in the topic of military manpower. In the U.S., the major military services have seen years of recruiting shortfalls, and the Army recently announced it's cutting thousands of positions. Germany is talking about bringing back conscription. National service is part of the platform of the Conservative Party in the UK. Other countries are talking about expanding mandatory service to women as well as men. And even some people connected to Donald Trump's presidential campaign are talking about bringing back some kind of draft, though Trump himself denies it. But even a draft isn't a panacea. In South Korea, where military service is mandatory, and even members of the world-famous boy band BTS aren't exempt, they're worried about the impact of falling birth rates and an aging population on their ability to prepare for war with North Korea. The U.S. hasn't had a draft since 1973, as American involvement in the Vietnam War was winding down. Given the amount of societal upheaval that draft caused, it's not surprising this is an issue a lot of policymakers don't really want to talk about in detail. A recent report from the Center for New American Security detailed some of the problems that would likely result if the U.S. ever did have to call a new draft, from the fact that notices would still be sent out by snail mail, to likely legal challenges, to the fact that Pentagon studies have shown that around 77% of young Americans would not even qualify for military service due to being overweight, using drugs, or having other physical and mental health issues. In short, we have a world where wars are unfortunately getting more common and longer, and where militaries are building up, investing in everything from artillery to nuclear weapons, but where one resource seems to be in short supply: the people to actually do the fighting.
Right fast, I want to say this thing I just thought about. and somehow I hadn't really thought about before. But Sean, back in the day, and cats would show up for their draft meetings, and they didn't want to get drafted, they would put a little switch in their hip. You know what I'm saying? Put a little something on it. Like that. That's what they would do. They go in there and try to pretend like they was gay, and then get put out of there. And in retrospect, clearly showing up high was the way to go.
I heard that.
I really hadn't thought about that. Yeah, like that one. That scene. I mean, they may not believe that you were actually gay, but they'll believe you actually high if you're actually high. Like they can't have you out there fighting no war if you was actually high. But let me tell you right now, man, you can try to bring back a draft in this country. It ain't happening. Okay? It ain't happening.
We'll be losing a lot of wars if we brought the draft back.
Well, here's what they're going to try to figure out, right? It's pretty simple. We know something about this country. This country got a lot of jobs or a lot of things that people used to do that they don't really do no more because people don't want to do no more. And they're like, damn, who do we find to do these jobs that people don't want to do anymore? And the easy answer has always been Mexicans, right? Like that's the move. Anytime they start talking about these illegal immigration, right, or undocumented immigrants, they are out here taking American jobs. I'm sorry, I ain't never seen them take no job than when I worked at them places that Americans was doing, okay? Like, I don't know. Maybe you've always wanted to go pick them strawberries. I have no idea. Maybe that was your dream, right? But it don't seem like they taking those kinds of jobs. They figure it out right now how in the world to get our friends into some camouflage and to go send them out there, because the rest of us, we ain't coming. We ain't showing up. You're not going to be able to get people on board with that. I don't know what it's going. And Sean, they talk about the way he put that, he was talking about the possibility of a war against China.
That was the main point of potential China invading Taiwan. No, thank you. You see those kids dribbling basketballs in China?
How about this? I can count. All I got to be able to do is to count. And they got a society where they be telling people what to do and they do it, right? No. I don't know how many of us they need to get out there. That like I'm out here, I'm 43. I'll be 44 in a couple of months, right? I'm too old for you to put in to military service, right? Not if we fighting against China. Now, if they fight against China, they might have me out there. They gonna have you out there. They gonna have my brother out there. All you old ass dudes that's out here on Instagram showing off that y'all in good shape, they gonna come find you and put you out there. All you women out there using Instagram to thirst trap. Oh no, you out here looking like you a specimen. They gonna have you out there to fight China. They ain't got no room to tell nobody no. Like when they was ramping up the stuff over there in Afghanistan and the Middle East, they had to get a little easier, more lenient about who they was letting in. And so it was like some gangbangers that was getting through the cracks to get in because they couldn't be affording to tell somebody no just because they banged a set. That was practice, right? They ain't had no time to be doing that. They talk about fighting China. They gonna try to send us all over there. We got to find somewhere else to go.
Yeah, that might be a wrap for us. And I have some cultural experience because the writer Joshua mentioned it. Korea is like an automatic. Men have to go serve for 3 years in the army, and my cousins and uncles have done it, and they were like, it's a cultural thing. We know we have to do it, and at the end of the day, like it's not the most fun, but you meet a lot. It's more of a social thing. It ends up turning into, and
yes,
to go up against China where they're building soldiers, like I don't know.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Like what you described with South Korea, like they war been fought. You know what I'm saying? Like they going in, they don't think it's going to turn into nothing, right? If they start drafting here, it's only because it has turned into something. So this ain't just going to be a matter of, nah, it's cool. I'm going to just go over there and, do some push-ups. I'm going to come back jacked. Like they looking at that like for your people to sound like going to work at UPS. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be hard, but you're going to come back jacked.
Yeah, totally. All right, here's the next clip.
Hey there, I'm Rebecca Jennings, a senior correspondent at Vox, and this week I wrote a piece about why male politicians can't dress. As we all know, no one's really enjoying paying attention to the election this year, but when you do tune in, you're going to see some pretty terrible outfits. That's because the Republican contenders are copying Trump's shiny red ties, which are traditionally only worn during the evenings, and all the younger alpha bro guys are wearing suits that are way too tight. So I spoke to Twitter's menswear guy, aka Derek Guy, a fashion journalist who's known for his really quippy, informative threads on menswear. And he explained how the casualization of menswear over the past 100+ years has led to politicians trying to straddle this line between suits and casual wear, which ends up with things like dress sneakers, which are halfway between Oxfords and sneakers and are really ugly. Looking forward to hear what you guys think.
All right, look, man. I don't want to get into your politics or the politics with y'all because it's just honestly, for what, right? But y'all got to have some dignity about yourselves, and you ain't got to be out here dressing like Donald Trump. Like it's one thing if somebody shows up and they fly and they run things, and therefore you want to dress like them because you want to look like you fly. Instead, you just look like Donald Trump. That's not the same thing.
It's tough when that's your fashion inspo is a almost 70-year-old man who wears the same thing every single day.
Hold on. Almost 80-year-old man.
Yeah, that's
almost
right.
80.
Yeah.
Like, let's get this right. Almost 80-year-old man who, like, it is amazing. No matter what you think of him, no matter what you think of his politics, it is amazing how he made an entire political party get like him. He told everybody, get like me. They all act like they hate him when he's not around. They all went and got like him. Every single one of them.
Duff McDuff in the chat mentioning that Obama tan suit that, obviously caused an uproar in America. And it's like, well, can you even dress whatever you want in that position, right? Like, is there even room for that?
You can't wear whatever you want. You don't have to wear that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do that.
All right, here's our last clip for if you haven't heard.
Hi, this is Paige St. John. I'm an investigative reporter at the Los Angeles Times. We tested legal weed to find if it had pesticides, chemicals that are banned from cannabis, that are dangerous to you if you inhale them. We found 25 out of 40-some brands that we tested contained contaminants that exceeded either the state's safety levels or the thresholds for tobacco, from all the way from levels that are dangerous only from repeated use and long-term exposure to chemicals that exceeded EPA's risk threshold for harm from a single use. Stuff that would make you feel sick, that would cause nausea, headaches, sore throat, etc., just from smoking a single vape. The question is, how bad is it? Nobody really knows. What we did find is that the safety certificates that tell you this stuff is safe can't be relied on. California does no market testing or shelf testing of products independently, so it's an open question. What's safe? I can't tell you. What's next? California's still struggling to get its own testing program up and running. The state's largest retailer says it'll start doing its own watchdog testing, and lawmakers later this month are considering a bill that would crack down on lab fraud. And try to flush out the bad labs that are certifying dirty stuff as safe. That's not happening fast, and this is only California. This is a national market, a national problem. Weed is very popular everywhere, and without a national policy about health safety, it's a toss-up in the air. Thanks for listening.
Look, man. Oh, yeah, my fault. I didn't mean to talk over you there. Look, man. One of the benefits of this legalization game is, like, you don't think about this much, especially like if you live in a place like New York, which is a pretty sophisticated market or whatever, but just about everywhere else. Imagine you just walk to the counter at the liquor store and they're like, what you want? You're like, you know what I want? Whatever you got. And they just handed you a bottle and they got X's on it like it's a cartoon, right? Because that's what most people are just smoking, man. They just smoking weed. right? Like whatever weed it happens to be, they smoking it. They don't know nothing about it. But you wind up in some places like Atlanta where you can get a hold of something and you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is getting me a little too high to look like this, right? Something going on here, right? Like somebody doing a little something to try to give this a little extra kick or whatever it is. So at least what you're supposed to feel like in a legalized, regulated environment is that somebody's out here giving this a look, right? But it sounds like the assumption that is made by these states and everything else is that now this has gone into the hands of these corporations or whatever. You don't really need to check them that close because now it's regulated because you can always trust business, right? Because business is going to run itself properly. And I'm like, don't you understand these people are about to mess up the wet dream? That's what they do. That's what they fully capable of. They out here spraying it with all, they're like, because the reason they got to do the pesticides is they don't want to lose the money on the weed that gets lost, right? Like they playing a whole different game and they figured out that ain't nobody actually checking this. And I'm telling you, the problem with what happens when you legalize weed is that the decisions are being made by people who don't really smoke weed. Because if you really smoked that much weed and everybody knew it, they wouldn't let you work at the government. You see what I'm saying? Like they need to understand Vegas got the casinos up and running. They had to hire a bunch of mobsters. They the ones that knew that game. That was what it was. And so you had to know, you got to keep a watch on these people because this ain't sacred to them. This is just another way for them to hit for another lick. People, Shaw, you sent me that story. A whole bunch of other people sent me that story. People were shook when they saw that story about how nasty the store weed was in California.
It obviously caused an uproar, rightfully so, but I feel like we were a little hip to it because we had that article maybe a couple months ago on, if you haven't heard, about how the like the capitalization and corporation of illegal weed is making it worse. And I think you even mentioned it's like this is going to be one of the side effects of that problem is like there's no regulations, there's no like the people who are making the weed now, like you said, are just businesses and they want money. And the two companies that were named for a lot of pesticides, Stizzy, and there were another one, those have become very major companies and players in the weed business.
Well, see, that's part of though what I wondered here in New York was all these renegade shops that they now trying to crack down. Where y'all getting this weed from, man? Right. Like I went to one of them places, man, that weed was in a container or in a bag that had a picture of Roberto Clemente on it. And I was they had Roberto Clemente, they had a David Ortiz, they had all the Caribbean Latino baseball players all on their shit, right? And I'm like, where is this from? These pre-rolls that you buying out the truck, where is this from? But the thing is, all the weed you've ever been buying up until this point has come with the question of where is this from? And the regulation is supposed to slow down the where is this from, right? But now I'm starting to think the unregulated people got a little bit more discipline about themselves. For example, my man Lance, his uncle Ho-Ho, God rest his soul. Ho-Ho used to grow a little something out by Compton College. I'd roll up and I'd scoop off of Uncle Ho-Ho. Ho-Ho would come through with the sack. I know Ho-Ho wasn't out there trying to kill me. You know what I'm saying? But now you going in stores.
Drugs right there, like.
Yes. Ho-Ho was a man you could trust. You going up in these spots now, you ain't got no chance. Damn.
No chance at all. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think it's going to slow anyone down, really.
Yikes. And by the way, I want to say this to the people in the chat room, the people that be on the comments on my YouTubes, the people in my comments on the Twitter. Stop snitching.
Bo, you mentioned earlier in the show about hating players and how you're still going to do that and how that's a good thing in sports or, something very true to sports. Your Prompt Friday, player you hate or have grown up hating. Got a ton of submissions, a lot of haters calling in. But we got 3 right here for you.
Hold on. Before we get into it, I want to tell you what prompted me to bring this up. My brother used to kick it in Iowa with this dude named Val Barnes. Val Barnes, I would say, was like an all Big Ten guard, right? Val had a brother named Stan. And Stan, for whatever reason, he wasn't monotone, but he said everything in the same voice. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, Stan hated Steve Kerr. This is like 1995. Stan hated Steve Kerr. Stan said that he would love to come down from the front row and tackle Steve Kerr while he was shooting and then get up and look at the crowd and go, yeah. So Stan, who said everything he said, he kind of just said like this. Like he kind of talked in his low sing-songy voice until he talked about tackling Steve Kerr. Then he was like, yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's what made me think. For any
reason in particular, or just he just had a hatred towards him?
He just hated Steve Kerr.
All right, here's the first one.
Hey, Bomani, love the show. This may sound weird because I'm from Boston and a huge Pats fan, but my irrational hatred is Tom Brady. When I was growing up, I was a huge Drew Bledsoe fan. Bledsoe was one of my first words. And when he got injured and nearly bled out on the field, Belichick picked Brady over him, playing the Super Bowl. Felt like he was a usurper, and can never get over the way that Pats and the whole city just moved on from Bledsoe and left him, and picked Brady, who went on to win those 6 championships in just the most joyless, miserable way possible. Hate his diet, hate the way he looks, hate everything about that guy, even though it's so rude for the Pats. Thanks.
He hates the way that he walked, the way that he talked, the way that he dressed. He hates him. Sean, he called him a usurper.
When I heard that, I was like, that man hates him. He like biblically hates him.
He was a half step from calling him an infidel.
I mean,
all right, what we got?
To live in Boston and hate him in that way. Oof.
That's got to be tough. That's got to be real tough while also still liking the team.
All right, here's our next one.
What's up, Bo? It's Ronald Clark from Inglewood, California. I grew up in Inglewood. Obviously, Paul Pierce is from Inglewood. I think back when I was in elementary, probably like 5th grade, him and Bobby Simmons had a one-day basketball camp at Rogers Park. And so I was in the camp, like I said, probably fifth grade at the oldest. Was working on some layups, couldn't do my left-hand layup, but Paul Pierce came over, and yay, from Inglewood, but we all Laker fans. So Paul came over, and I was just like, hey, Paul, what happened in the playoffs last year, you know? Just clowning him because we don't like Celtics, we Laker fans. And he responds back and goes, what's up with your layup? Like, dude, I'm in 5th grade. It's a left-hand layup. I ain't learned that yet, but it is what it is. Still, to this day, he's from Inglewood. I'm from Inglewood. Don't care. He's a Celtic. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Sean, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
What part of Inglewood is he from?
That's a good point.
Is it the New Inglewood?
Sounds like old Inglewood, but I don't know.
Like old Inglewood, like how Kevin Costner is from Compton.
Right.
I could be wrong. It didn't. By the way, I'm Team Paul Pierce in that story. You sound like you were a disrespectful little snot.
Yeah, I would have said the same thing to a 5th grader.
Yeah, you big enough to know what you was doing. Like, what? Since I can't hit you, I am left with no other choice but to speak to your own failures.
Yeah, if he called you a dick, that's one thing. But he said you can't make a left-handed layup. That's totally fine.
Yeah, if he called you a dick, you'd earn that too.
Yeah, here's the last one, which I think you're going to love.
Sean, Bo, it's your boy Dimitri in Raleigh. Your prompt, I had to call in because I don't so much have an athlete I hate. I have a coach. Although now, I don't so much have a coach I hate as a U.S. Senator. Tommy Tuberville can kiss the fattest, hairiest part of my ass. My mom still lives in Alabama. When she told me that Tommy Tuberville was running for Senate, the first words out of my mouth on instinct were, fuck that piece of shit. That one for the thumb season. They'd be so angry because he built his whole legend in the state of Alabama as Auburn's coach on a time period when Alabama was down as bad as they have ever been before. Don't get me wrong. I hate everything the man stands for in terms of policy. But he could be in line lockstep with me politically, doing nothing but good for this country. And I would still hate that motherfucker because he coached Auburn.
That is my good friend Dimitri the Greek in Raleigh, and I need you to understand something, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this because it's the truth. When he says the fattest, hairiest part of his ass, buddy, I don't want to consider what that might be. I don't really want to have to go there, right? Like Dimitri does a video called, he takes a bubble bath and he talks about SEC football. You can go look it up. You see what I'm saying? He's being serious right now in how he feel about Tommy Tuberville. And he's right. Tommy Tuberville beat Alabama like 6 times in a row. And it was when Alabama was down bad, boy. They was down bad.
That's some real hatred right there.
I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. Woo, boy, it's surreal. By the way, that was the thing about the Kendrick concert that I'll just never lose sight of is the disdain that he had for all the hater lines. It came through so crisp and clear, like, wow, he really hates this guy. And the crowd does too.
Put us back into some of those lines.
I hate the way that you walk. Yo, can you imagine being in the studio? Like, yo, dog, you good? You straight? You. Whew. Let it go, baby. Let it go. But, Sean, you got prize picks for the people.
I sure do. We got some WNBA games and Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, which pretty crazy. The Florida Panthers potentially giving up a 3-0 lead. But let's start with the WNBA.
Yo, hold on. Right fast. Before you say that. I am ashamed of myself. This hockey game on Monday night, this Game 7, first of all, Game 7 for everything in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It ain't getting no better than that. Like, this is,
That's
even if you
sports.
don't watch hockey, yeah, like I'm telling you, if you don't watch hockey, this will probably be one of the most exciting things that you have ever seen. Give it a go if you can, and the ceremony will be bananas if Florida wins because it'll be their home. But either way, give this a watch if you can. But I was like, damn, I ain't got nothing more than, ooh, this should be cool. First take, man, we scraping the ball so bad for content. They had Gary Bettman on that bad boy. They got Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp out there trying to talk about this hockey. It's that time of year, boy.
Yeah, it's tough when everyone's like, come on, you got to talk hockey. It's like, I don't know what we would say other than Game 7. Wow, either a great comeback or wow, they did it, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. But other than Connor McDavid, I don't know. Not what name. I know the Panthers got a Russo sounding name in goal. Sergey, which is the new Boris, by the way. Like back in the day, they used to all be Boris. They all Sergeys now.
You might know more hockey than me, but let's start with the NHL picks. Vladimir Tarasenko on the Florida Panthers. 1.5 shots on goal. I'll take more there. And then, like you said, Connor McDavid, 24.5, I believe, minutes, time on ice. I'll take more there as well. And then on the WNBA side, Jonquel Jones, 8.5 boards, take more. Nafisa Collier, 9 rebounds, I'll take more. Brianna Stewart, 19.5 points, I'll take more. But hopefully everyone else in the chat watches Game 7 because it's going to be pretty epic.
By the way, I had something I was going to say. The Olympic trials and track and field are going on. I am familiar with Noah Lyles.
Yep.
I did not realize he had a brother named Josephus.
Josephus? Like that old pitch, the Cephas pitch? Is it like that?
Yeah, the Josephus. I spy another church with no music and no windows. That is no wonder Noah Lyles so free spirited. He had to break free. Like if your parents naming you Noah and naming the other boy Josephus in the 21st century, like. And he the young one, so I don't think he like no Josephus the fourth or nothing like that. He just a Josephus. I don't know how it's possible that you can be fast if your name is Josephus. You've got to be 70. How you beating anybody in a race? And last thing, do you know who was on the call for the 100-meter dash at the Olympic trials for NBC?
No.
The Stallion. And
wow.
That means it's going to be great conflict. Mike Tirico going to be calling a race featuring gold medal winner Lamont Jones. it is entirely possible that, it's gonna be a swirl of emotions.
Hearing him say Josephus, I'd pay money for that.
Look here, I just want to know if he gonna root for his Italian brother Lamont. They tell me Lamont 5-0 too. Lamont a police over there, so like. It's a lot going on. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this thing here 3 times a week. That's Sean Yu. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thanks to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. Thanks to Paige St. John of the LA Times. Check out her story about how dirty your weed is at latimes.com. Thanks to Rebecca Jennings of Vox. Check out her story about the most powerful men in America dressing like slobs at vox.com. And thanks to Joshua Keating of Vox. Check out his story on the world running out of soldiers at vox.com. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.